like from the idea that like menswear could be something more. Because there aren't that many options for men out there, and I feel like that women have so many options, and that's why it's like really challenging and like a lot of fun for me.
For me, I saw that streetwear, especially, which is predominantly worn by men, it was heavily saturated, and a lot of the design process seemed really flat and not really interesting to me.
And the way that it tells a story is always like so interesting, and it's so important because the clothing that we wear, it tells people like who you are. Because you put this stuff on and like you don't really see yourself and like but other people do, but you feel how something fits onto you, and that's really the way that you like envision yourself. It's a fantasy that you're creating through clothing. Because I see myself as much more of a badass than I actually am. But when I put on it's true. But when I put on the clothes, I'm like, yeah, I'm that person in my head. Even though day to day I'm just like doing that sort of shit or doing that sort of stuff, and then I'm like, but I am a badass because I have this clothing on that represents the person that I see myself as. And having that story being told, and having the garments tell that story, and having the garments being designed to tell that sort of story, I feel like is really important because that's what people latch onto, and that's how they express like their emotional attachment to clothing.
My background, I was born in New York. I grew up in Long Island, so I've kind of been in New York my whole life. I think a lot of that has been pretty influential to my creative work, for sure. I think being someone who's grown up around all the different things going around in the city, I became very immersed. When I went to school in Providence, which is where I met Wow, that's kind of where I saw and was able to appreciate how diverse and culturally rich New York was.
Doing anything design or like anything that's art, having like a little bit of breathing room is always great because it kind of like leaves your head to like really think about all these things that you've experienced.
A lot of the things that we reference or look at for inspiration, it's stuff that we grew up with or we grew up around, and we feel that those things heavily influenced who we've become.
Yeah, the multitude of like perspectives is so important because it makes design, it makes the concept, it makes the ideas richer. The reason why I named it Khoman Room is because I like this idea of like a space, whether it's imaginary or whether it's real, for things to come in and to really unite in this area. So it was either calling it studio, which seemed a little clinical for me, or calling it room, which I think is a lot more inviting. I think a lot of like fashion is very, very like exclusive. It's all about like this inner circle type thing, and I always hated that. I really wanted, to have a fashion brand that the membership of it is the fact that like you just have to exist as yourself. Got this tattoo on here that says to create is to live twice. Philosophically, that's how I feel about creating. Like you're like alive again. It's not something that everyone gets to do. It's not something that everyone's allowed to do. And even when you're allowed to create, it's like unlimited freedom. That's the main time that I get to really like play out my like God complex, because I'm like because I get to bring all these like pieces in to make something, and then that thing becomes other people's choices.
For me, I think it comes from a place of I want to share my experiences, and I want to share my ideas or my perspective on something, and I want someone else to kind of live that experience that I lived through my creation.
Our target audience, I guess in a general sense, I would just say that anyone who wants a little bit more out of like the everyday fashion that they wear. It's not like ground shattering, like earth breaking shit. Like I know that, but it feeds into the sensibilities and the sensitiveness of each person's everyday life. It's about convenience, but it's also about elevating that, giving them more to really like feel towards on a day-to-day basis.
We're different, but my mind still says redundant.